everybody, and welcome to the Football Philosophy channel. And this is a weekend roundup of the Premier League fixtures. Obviously, United drew 2-2 with Leicester at the King Power on Saturday. I thought we had the game wrapped up, taking the lead, relatively late in the game. I think it was about the 81st, 82nd minute when Bruno put us in front from a lovely pass by Cavani. Cavani only got about 20-25 minutes as a sub, I think, and he's known as a great goal scorer, which he's been a good goal scorer for us already, but he came up with the assist this weekend. I thought we should have managed the game a lot better. Really do think we need to be improving on our ball retention. We should really be putting the game to bed and not trying to play long balls and get into their half to hold it in their half. We need to be able to get hold of it better and pass it more and get more passes completed, even in our own half of the field. That's how the top teams do it. When they're 2-1 up with 7 and 8 minutes, they literally work on getting lots of passes in and not necessarily putting balls towards the corner flag. That's generally how struggling teams play, putting the ball near the corner flag, basically to waste time, really, just to chase that ball up there and hopefully to win a throw-in or whatever it might be that you try to do. So I thought obviously, are we actually in a title race? Everybody's been discussing that for a while. 5 points behind the leaders on Saturday morning with a game in hand. You'd have to say, yeah, there was 13 games already gone for us and 14 for others. You'd have to say we're in a title race, and you're in a title race until whatever time that gap gets a bit bigger. So I thought it was going to get a bit bigger straight away. Obviously, Liverpool were at home to West Brom on Sunday night. Couldn't believe that they dropped points there. Big Sam did a job there. Got a 1-1 draw. Funnily enough, West Brom, they drew at the Etihad not long ago, and that was just before. In fact, that was the day before Slaven Bilic got sacked. So it's not just under Big Sam that they've been able to get a great result like that. They did it just before he got the job as well. So it was a great point for West Brom. Now, it still leaves them in the bottom three. But as far as we're concerned, we were, as I say, on Saturday morning, we were 5 behind with a game in hand, and thanks to the result that West Brom have got there, we remain 5 behind them with a game in hand. Even if Liverpool would have just won that game and now been 7 points in front of us, okay, we'd still have the game in hand. But I just feel as though the gap would already be getting too big. At the minute, as I said on a show last week, we're in a situation now where we're pretty closely approaching halfway through the season. We've got 2 tough games coming up. We've got Wolves at home. We've got Villa at home. Both difficult fixtures. But we need to remain within touching distance of Liverpool before we play them at Anfield. After these next 2 games, the next league game, because we've got 2 cup ties after that, the next league game after that is Liverpool away. We need that to be our 17th league game of the season. We need to be going to Anfield no more than 5 points behind them. We're in that situation now. We're 5 points behind them with a game in hand. Obviously, that comes down to 2 points if we can win that game in hand whenever it gets played. And that's what we need to do when we go to Anfield. And when we go to Anfield, a draw would be perfectly fine if we can get a draw there. So we've got to do our absolute utmost to win these 2 games. And then you never know, Liverpool could drop points at the same time. But then we'd be going to Anfield in absolutely no worse a situation than 5 points behind them. I'm not getting giddy. A lot of the fans are getting giddy about our United genuinely in a title race and they could win it again and all that. I'm not thinking like that. I'm thinking along the lines of ticking the games off one by one and remaining in a situation where we could be in a title race. The closer it gets, if we can still be in that position when we've played 20 games, 22 games, bit by bit, you've got to start saying then that we are in with a genuine chance as you get further into the season. So we've got to tick the games off, we've got to keep getting points, and we've got to stay within touching distance of the leaders. In other games over the weekend, City gained ground on us. City beat Newcastle 2-0. City are right in the hunt. City are 6 points behind the leaders with a game in hand on them as well. So it's not just Liverpool. So City beat Newcastle 2-0. Everton won 1-0 at Sheffield United. Everton have actually moved into second place. Great job Ancelotti's doing at Goodison. I'm sure a lot of people would just write Everton off, but I don't see any reason why we should. Why would you write Everton off when they are actually second in the league? They had a great start, Everton. Then they had a little bit of a blip, but suddenly they've come back with 4 wins on the bounce, and those wins include wins at Leicester and wins against Chelsea and against Arsenal. So they've moved into second place. They're 3 behind Liverpool on the same games. So you might not expect Everton to stay there, but you've got to say at this precise moment in time, same as us, the longer they can stay in touch, the better. Arsenal had a good win. They beat Chelsea 3-1. Talk about a topsy-turvy Premier League. Arsenal hadn't won in 8 domestic games. That's in League and Cup, but against British teams, English teams I should say, they hadn't won in 8 games. And suddenly they beat Chelsea 3-1. And Chelsea, who you really thought they were looking like serious challengers, suddenly Chelsea have lost 3 out of the last 4 league games. And it's left Chelsea. They're actually 7 points behind the leaders, Chelsea. So they're not completely out of it, but it is, it's surprising how it can turn round, how form can turn round so quickly. A great win for Arsenal, but 3 defeats out of 4 games for Chelsea is a bit of a poor run, obviously. So they need to snap out of that. Arsenal are still in 15th. Looking at Arsenal's position, the best they can hope for, obviously, is top 4. They're 10 points outside the top 4. It's United who are in 4th at the minute as well, and United have got a game in hand on Arsenal. So you'd have to say even top 4 is looking like a tough ask for Arsenal. Spurs, another one who were looking like a genuine contender. They may still be. I mean, obviously they've dropped points again. They drew 1-1 with Wolves, who were leading very early in the game, Spurs, and Wolves got an equaliser about 5 minutes from time. Spurs were flying, and suddenly they've not won in 4 games. They've had 2 defeats and 2 draws in the league in the last 4 games. So from being level with Liverpool 4 games ago, luckily for them, Liverpool have dropped a couple of points along the way, and they're now 6 behind the leaders on the same games. Aston Villa beat Palace 3-0 over the weekend. Even Aston Villa, it's so tight in the top half of the table, well, throughout the table really. The top half of the table's particularly tight though. Even Aston Villa, if you're a United supporter and you think you're in a title race, Aston Villa are 2 points behind United with a game in hand on us. So if we're in a title race, are Aston Villa in a title race? You've got to say yes. As I said about Everton, they'll be looking at it in the same manner. Keep ticking the games off and stay in the hunt. The 3-0 win against Palace was particularly impressive. Tyrone Mings got sent off in the first half, and it was 1-0 at the time, so you thought, well, obviously that gives Palace a right boost, and you'd expect Palace maybe to get back in it. But Palace seems to have really hit rock bottom at the minute. They got beat 7-0 by Liverpool last week, and 3-0 basically against a 10-man Aston Villa team. So Palace really have hit rock bottom at the moment. I don't know if they're going to swing that round soon. They had a decent start. Well, obviously they beat us on the first day of the season, so they had a decent start. Leeds beat Burnley 1-0. Patrick Bamford got his 10th goal of the season in the league. It's a tremendous effort for a newly promoted side. Leeds are in 12th, 20 points from 15 games. So I think you'd have to say that they look well set to be able to hold on to the position in the Premier League. And Burnley getting beat 1-0 at Leeds has left them 2 points outside the bottom 3. As I said, it's tight throughout the league. The bottom of the league is fascinating, I think. You've got West Brom. Well, obviously Sheffield United at bottom. Sheffield United have got 2 points. Can't see Sheffield United getting out of that. I think they're too far behind already. West Brom have got 8 points. Fulham have got 11. Burnley 13 and Brighton 13. I think the sensible money, even at this early stage, would have to say, I think Sheffield United, you'd have to say, are going to go down. And then probably 2 from those 4 teams, West Brom, Fulham, Burnley and Brighton. I find it absolutely fascinating because Burnley, obviously, they've been a decent Premier League time and they've got still got Sean Dyche in charge. You'd expect Burnley to pull out of it, but Fulham have hit a good bit of form, unbeaten in 4. All right, they're all draws, but that's not bad for a bottom 3 team. They've drawn the last 4 games, including a draw with Liverpool, and Brighton are on 13 points. I think they've drawn 3. I think they've drawn their last 3 games as well. So there's a couple of teams at the bottom there that are in a decent run of form, and alongside Burnley, it's difficult to sort of say who you think might get out of it or go down. There's a full Premier League fixture list starting again tonight and finishing Wednesday. I'll jump ahead to Wednesday and work backwards. On Wednesday, you've got Spurs v Fulham. Just spoken about Fulham. They've not lost. Proper strange one. Fulham are in the bottom 3 and Spurs were title contenders a couple of weeks ago. Fulham haven't lost in the last 4 and Spurs have lost 2 and drawn 2 of the last 4. So that could be an interesting game on Wednesday night. Spurs v Fulham. Liverpool are at Newcastle on Wednesday night. Is it too much for us to hope for Liverpool to slip up again? I can't see it, but you always say you don't know. They have got injury problems, so you just never know. Tomorrow night, Tuesday, it's the big one for us versus Wolves. We've only beaten Wolves once in the last 7 attempts. That's in 2 seasons since Wolves came up, because we've played them in the FA Cup. We've drawn them in the FA Cup twice. So we've played Wolves 7 times in 2 seasons and only beaten them once. So it's a particularly tough game for us tomorrow night. Also Tuesday night, you've got Brighton versus Arsenal. Brighton are playing okay at the minute. I don't think that's a pushover for Arsenal. Southampton versus West Ham. 2 teams who I think both have got the sights set on at least top 10 finishing, if not pushing for Europa League places. So Southampton, West Ham's a big game. West Brom versus Leeds as well, Tuesday night. Massive game for Sheffield United Tuesday night. Sheffield United play Burnley. If ever there was a must-win game at such an early stage of the season, surely this is it. Not just because it's a game where maybe they could get the 3 points, but obviously the situation between Sheffield United and the teams that they've got any chance of catching. At the moment, Burnley are on 13 points, Sheffield United are on 2 points. If Sheffield United can win, it just looks so much more manageable, so much more possible. There'll be 8 points behind Burnley. Still a big gap, but not completely out of the question that they could do it. Even if they draw that game, there will remain 11 points behind Burnley, and you'd have to say that'd probably be it. I really do believe it's a must-win game, despite how early it is in the season. Tonight, 3 games, or today I should say, at 3 o'clock you've got Crystal Palace versus Leicester. At 5:30 there's Chelsea versus Aston Villa. Really interesting game. Chelsea's dipping form and the way Villa are going, really interesting game at 5:30. I'll be glued to that one, and I think that could be, it will be interesting as well. At 8 o'clock, Everton versus City at 8 o'clock tonight. As I say, Everton are in second place, so it's no pushover for City. It could be a cracking game. All of those games are live on Amazon Prime. I'll be watching a couple of them. But I'll be back later on with rating the ratings. I'm talking about the United's, when I look at one of the newspaper ratings. I've not picked which newspaper yet, but I'll be comparing my ratings of the United players in the 2-2 draw at Leicester. So that'll be later on this evening. Tomorrow night it's United and Wolves. Desperate for the 3 points for that. I'll be having a look at what I think the team lineup might be for that game. Desperate to win it, just to stay in touch, as I say. So that's that for now. If you've enjoyed that little show, please tell all your friends. Please subscribe. If you didn't enjoy it, don't tell anyone. Keep stum.
That's it. I love that.